Our next guest, Republican candidate for HD-68, which went into a runoff after this weekend. And our next guest made the runoff, Craig Carter, Republican candidate for HD-68, seeking to replace now State Senator Drew Springer in that seat. Craig Carter, welcome to the show. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Before we get into some of your different viewpoints on the issues, first tell folks a little bit about yourself and your biography and why you decided to run for this office.
So my family and I moved to Montague County about 20 years ago and bought a farm, and we just from there started getting kind of actively involved and bought our first piece of land and cleared it and fenced it and ponds, and then built a house, and then built the second house and bought another piece of land, did the same thing. Then my sister moved out there, and our family's a pretty tight-knit family. And so we've kind of enjoyed the rural life. And from there, about 4.5 years ago, I bought the old Nakona Boot Factory building. At the time, I was just buying it because it was a property had been abandoned for about 20 years, and there was talk about bulldozing it as a historic building, and I thought I'd just step in and save it and use it for storage. And I kind of got sucked into really a kind of a kingdom assignment on, at that time I wasn't that involved on understanding, what was going on in the community. But the more I started restoring that building and hearing about, at one point I employed about 500 people, and looking around and there's no jobs, there's no opportunity, there's just a lot of poverty. We started Hope 2911, which is after Jeremiah 2911, providing a future and hope food bank. And we started helping people. And, this last year through COVID, we were able to stay open the whole time, and we helped close to 30,000 people. So a very high volume distribution. We've got great partners like Walmart that have been really good to us and have, helped lots of counties around us. And so that piece got really inspired on doing that. And then as I started looking around more, I realized that, it's great. We're helping a lot of elderly, and there's a lot of need, but without jobs, there is no future and hope. So I got really focused on how do I solve creating jobs in Nakona, which is hard. Creating one job in Nakona is hard. And so I got very focused on that. And, last couple of years, I've created close to 100 jobs. Very outside the box. I now have 12 old boot factory stores, which create the demand for Nakona. We have Nakona ball gloves in the factory, about 50 people that do that. We have a boot store, we have the food bank in the back, and then we have Nakona Beer and Brewery on one corner of the building that has a restaurant, and really trying to bring back jobs. And we're really excited that we will be making boots out of the building pretty soon.
Awesome.
And that's a very exciting journey. And on that's why I'm involved politically. So through the challenges of restoring, creating jobs, I ran into a lot of what I consider gridlocks on different agendas or control of people just not seeing eye to eye. And, I'm one of those people that when I know it's what's right and it's the right thing to do, and I'm there, me and my family, we stand for people that don't have a voice. And so we've been able to push through a lot of those strongholds and, be able to overcome challenges like getting high-speed internet to Nakona. That was a fight for years to pull that off. And, now Nakona is picking up new businesses and thriving because we have high-speed internet that can support that. And so it's interesting how when one person stands, the next person stands, and then you look around and go, now this is really coming together. And you will always have opposition with change, but at the same time, the community is becoming stronger, and there's a lot of new people moving out there. And that's the same type of passion of why I'm in this race, is that the challenges we have in Nakona with the town of 3,000, are definitely throughout our rural western part of the district. These are challenges we need to overcome. And you can fix almost every issue in Nakona by increasing new revenue streams through new ventures or businesses. You can fix funding for the police. You can fix funding for your schools. And so that's why I'm really passionate about taking that business sense to Austin and finding real solutions now, not just talking about it, but motivating people to work together to get results, to make sure that Texans can stand on their own 2 feet and that we have a bright future in front of us.
Visiting with Craig Carter, and let me just say before we get into some of the other issues that you would be facing if elected, you got a great story, and what you've done with the Nakona Boot Factory and everything else. It's a great story. You're putting people to work, and God bless you for doing that. And I know it's helped out so many in that community. So do want to say that. Let's talk about taking your experience as a business person. If you were elected and you go to Austin, what would be, 1 or 2, maybe 3 priorities that you really want to get locked in on in Austin for HD-68?
Thank you. The top couple priorities, when it comes to property tax, it's been something that's been a lot of talks about, and there hasn't been a whole lot of movement. I've been looking really, really close at what are the options to actually, solve the issue. And those options are out there, and I'm going to really focus a lot of energy on it, and just kind of give an example of some of the things that I'll be focusing on. That is that when you look at small business and you look at inventory tax and the amount of paperwork it takes to put that together every year and pay our inventory tax, the small businesses are bearing the entire brunt of that. When you look at all the big companies in Texas, the Walmarts, the Amazons, they don't pay any inventory tax. And most of them don't pay property tax. They don't pay, sometimes they get a rebate on sales tax. And so when you level the playing field on taking inventory tax and eliminating that and moving to a small consumption tax, and there are no loopholes, there's no getting around it, and put that money into our school system, what's going to end up happening is we're going to have a surplus of money so that our schools that are needing the right tools to be successful and teachers that are underpaid and finding solutions for that, you've got to start with providing the funds to take the next step. And so that is a huge priority for me on finding a solution for that. And it can be done. It's just right now the current system, I think the numbers are as high as 35% of the system is just complete inefficiency and waste. We as taxpayers don't get anything for that. And then almost 50% of the people out there don't pay anything. And so when you start getting everyone paying and you get rid of the waste, you now have a system that is flush with cash that now we can fix the issues in our rural communities. So that's going to be, priority number one. Priority number two, with redistricting, we've got to make sure that our rural community has a voice and that we're not just absorbed in the metropolitan areas and we lose our voice. So that's going to be really important. But beyond all of that, what's happening in Washington right now, I think the most important thing happening in our country is that we need people in Austin that can stand and will stand against corruption and will stand against Washington's overreach. I'm very proud of what Abbott and Paxton are doing to defend Texas, and it's just as we're headed that direction, the other side has some agendas on moving us towards socialism, and they're moving really fast. And we're going to have to be more committed than they are to make sure we're defending our freedoms and fighting to protect what Texans value. And so that's the fight that I'm excited to be a part of. And in my journey in Nakona, I know how to stand up for what's right and get up every day and keep going after it no matter how many beatings you take on the journey. You just keep being relentless, and so I'm committed to that fight, and I'm committed to making a difference.
I got a few minutes left with you in this interview, and we're going to invite you back, of course, as we get closer to that runoff date, visiting with Craig Carter here on the Chad Hasty Show. Let me ask you about an issue that has come up the past couple of sessions. I know leadership is going to bring it back. Republican leadership is going to bring it back and try to push it through again, and that is a ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying. What are your thoughts on that issue, and then also the Second Amendment issues? Anything there that you want to get into?
So I 100% support banning all forms of taxpayer lobbying, and you've got to stop the money that is, basically getting put back in the system that is really snuffing out our voice, and we've got to get back to having a voice. Just very focused on the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, and my wife did 2 tours to Afghanistan, level 5 security clearance. We were very passionate about our guns and defending our property and making sure that we are standing up for our rights. And I would encourage anyone out there to, jump on my website, craigcarterfortexas.com. And then if you have any questions, call me on my cell, 817-805-1157. I'd love to connect with you more, and we're going to be making a tour in the district. Now that we have a little more time, we'll be spending time in each part of the community, and I look forward to doing some meet and greets and getting to know everyone in the district.
That's great. One more question before I let you go, and it's about emergency powers that the governor has had and also that county judges have. Would you like to see those reined in if elected?
I think there has been some government overreach in those areas, so they definitely we need to look at that. I think with what's happened with COVID this last year, that was such an unknown that we now have enough data to modify some of those orders and put them into alignment. And I do think that we've had a lot of people working very hard, and the data has unfortunately been changing day by day, which makes it very challenging to make an educated decision on some issues. So that is something definitely we need to look at and make sure and update some of that language due to some of the things we just experienced.
Excellent. Tell folks one more time how they can, where they can find your website.
Yeah, craigcarterfortexas.com, and then call me on my cell, 817-805-1157.
All right, Craig Carter, Republican candidate in HD-68 in that runoff race. We wish you the best of luck, and we'll visit again soon.
Yep, sounds great.
All right, thank you.
Good.
That's Craig Carter, Republican candidate for HD-68, and he's giving his cell phone number out. How about that? That's brave. That's bravery right there, giving your cell phone out for people to call you. I like it. Craig Carter, Republican candidate, HD-68 runoff. Joining us on the phones right now, Republican candidate for HD-68, David Spiller. Mr. Spiller, welcome to the Chad Hasty Show. How are you today?
I'm great, Chad. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Glad to visit with you. Before we get into the individual issues that are out there, tell folks a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for the Texas House.
Well, I was born and raised in Jacksboro. After graduating from Jacksboro High School, graduating from college and law school, I came back to Jacksboro to live, work, and raise my family. I've practiced law here for 34 years. I've got a private practice with my 2 sons, Mason and Reed, and previously before that I practiced with my father and my younger brother. I also own another business, Spiller Title. It's a title company. It's believed to be the oldest family-owned title insurance company in the state of Texas. It started by my great-granddad back in 1888, so it's still going. As part of my private practice, I have served as the city attorney for the city of Jacksboro for 33 years. I've been general counsel to our Jack County Hospital District for 30 years. And also as part of my law practice, in addition to trying cases and doing all the other law practice that you do here in a small town, I'm also a credentialed advanced mediator, and I've mediated over 1,000 cases for other attorneys. So I'm also serve on the school board here in Jacksboro. I'm currently serving my 26th year as a trustee of the Jacksboro Independent School District. So I live here in Jacksboro with my wife, Ginger. We've been married 33 years. She has taught school for 30 years. I've got my 2 sons, like I say, that are both attorneys. Mason, his wife Alex, have one son, Shepard, and Alex teaches 5th grade here at Jacksboro. Reed and his wife Haley are expecting a child. So, and Haley teaches kindergarten. So all good here at the Spiller House right now. And Ginger and I are members of First Baptist Church of Jacksboro. As far as why I'm running, I just felt the timing was right. We need a rural conservative voice for our district. And, quite frankly, for years we've been served very well by then Representative, now Senator Drew Springer. He did a great job for us. And so I thought, well, we're in good hands, and I'm not going to worry about it. But there's a need now, and I feel that I'm the guy for the job. I've got the experience, the knowledge, and the drive to represent the folks in this district.
Very good. What are some of your priorities that some things that you would like to see get done if elected in HD-68?
Well, where to start? Well, first of all, let me say, I'm a rural conservative. It's a rural district. Rural districts are outnumbered by urban districts 3-1. So I want, first and foremost, to advance and defend the conservative principles, values, and beliefs of the folks of this district. So specifically what that means, I would support legislation to protect rural schools. I'm very familiar with public schools. Rural schools problems are, in some respects, are the same as urban schools, but in some respects they're not. So I would be concerned about those things. Also to fight for rural hospitals. Texas leads the nation in rural hospital closures. There have been 26 in the last 10 years, and so I very well understand the plight and the struggles and the challenges facing rural hospitals, and I would work to better their situation. And another issue that's very concerning out here in our district, in House District 68, and for much of rural Texas, is access to high-speed internet. We just don't have it. In the urban districts, you go turn on your internet like you flip on a light switch, and you just assume it's that way for everybody. And out here in the country, it's not necessarily that way. And you think, they don't get internet or is good at internet, but it's a problem that affects every aspect of our lifestyle, whether it's education, when especially it's been exacerbated by COVID and
right.
remote learning, where kids are having to go to Dairy Queen to get their homework done.
Right.
That's not acceptable. So we've got, it affects healthcare as far as telemedicine for a lot of rural health clinics and hospitals. It affects economic development, so it's a huge issue. Also, certainly I would work to protect the right to life, defend the Second Amendment, and defend property rights and water rights, which I have a history of doing. So those are some of the priorities that I would have.
What obviously, if you're elected, you'll be thrown right into the middle, or sort of the middle of the session, the beginning of the session. But things would have already things are underway down in Austin. What so far as you know of the speaker, what do you think about the speaker? What do you think about the governor's leadership, lieutenant governor, and how everyone's working together? Just right now down in Austin.
I have the utmost respect for our leadership. I think they're doing a very good job. We watch TV. Not everybody listens to the radio 24/7, but there's sometimes people turn on TV and you see what's happening in Washington D.C. and it's disgraceful. It's upsetting. It's bothersome, and you see the clash and the tension that's there. And for the most part, we like to think that we operate a little better than that here in Texas, and I think it's important for us to set an example. And I think our speaker and the governor and our leadership is doing the best job possible to do that. And I think that's what needs to be done. I think people need to be more civil to each other, and I think they're working hard to try to work for the best interest of Texas, and I appreciate that.
What are your thoughts, and this is something that we've been speaking with a lot of Republican lawmakers and candidates about, something that you're going to face if elected in HD-68, at least face probably a vote on, and that is a ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying. It seems pretty popular with Republicans, Democrats, and independents, something you don't see every day as far as an issue. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't like taxpayer-funded lobbying. It's not a main core function of local government. My concern would be to protect against any unintended consequences to my rural district. You know, we don't in House District 68, we don't have any county, city, schools, or hospital districts that are spending millions of dollars on lobbyists. That's not the way it works, and that's not happening. So whatever is done, I think it's important that it should not cause harm, shouldn't cause harm to rural Texans and to the rural folks in my district. That would be my only concern with whatever's done, that we protect them and protect their voice to the extent we can.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on? You said you'd protect the Second Amendment. Is there anything that you would like to see done as far as constitutional carry or anything in that realm on the Second Amendment, or just making sure that rights aren't being taken away from us?
Well, I would certainly fight for our rights and defend those insofar as those rights are being taken away. But I would support the Second Amendment. I support constitutional carry. Whatever, I'm on board with that. I have the highest rating that you can get from the NRA, and I'm proud of that. And so that's, I would certainly work in that regard.
We're visiting with David Spiller, Republican candidate for HD-68. And I've seen in other places and here on the show, you've called yourself a rural conservative. And you don't see that a lot, with even other rural Republicans. They call themselves conservatives or Republican. What do you mean by rural conservative? How does that set you apart from your opponent, maybe, or other conservatives or other Republicans, either in this part of the state or throughout the state of Texas?
Well, I can't speak for the distinction between them as far as what they consider themselves or how they would characterize themselves. But what I mean by that is I'm a conservative, but I'm also live in a rural area, and I understand rural concerns. I'm the only candidate in this race that has been to all 22 counties. I mean, our district is huge. It's vast. It covers 22 counties. Yes. It's 300 miles across east and west. It's 200 miles north and south. So that's a lot of ground to cover. I made a point when I got in this race to go to every single county and hold meetings in every single county, and I was the first one and only one to do that. And certainly my opponent has not done that. And I did it because I want to hear what those folks had to say. And the good news is that I heard some concerns that I hadn't heard before, but their concerns by and large are the same ones that we have here in Jack County, where I'm from, and the surrounding counties that I'm in pretty regularly. So I understand rural issues. I understand rural concerns. And the challenge is to me to be an effective communicator, an effective advocate, to maybe shed some light on our issues, our problems, our concerns that may be different than those in urban areas and maybe different perspective than some of those urban conservative folks from what they may have.
Yeah, very good. Last question for you before we let you plug your website and tell everybody where they can find out more information about you. Obviously, as a rural conservative, just someone who lives in West Texas and someone who lives in an area that is. Well, let's be honest, when it comes to redistricting, this entire part of the state is going to be under fire from the more populated areas. Is that something that concerns you? Is that something that you're prepared to go and fight when, if elected, to the Texas House?
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, that's probably the most, and when I go out and speak, what I would say is that's our number one priority, because the greatest fear, and you don't think about this if you're in an urban district, but the greatest fear that some of these counties have and rural counties have is being absorbed into a more urban county. Now, I'm not talking about that these would be absorbed into, Dallas, Austin, or Houston, but there are more urban areas around us that their outlook on life may be somewhat different than ours. Good folks, but different. And so if you get pulled into one of those districts, then you lose your vote and you lose your voice, and that is a primary concern. So I don't mind as far as redistricting. If I have a large district and a lot of ground to cover, I'm okay with that. But everyone, I think, for the most part in our district understands that. But, yes, that's a critical issue, and we want to maintain those conservative principles, values, and beliefs.
Very good. Tell folks where they can find out more about yourself and your campaign.
Okay, well, my website is spillerfortexas.com. Facebook, if you follow Facebook, it's David Spiller for Texas House. There's a lot of good information on that. And I've put out to everybody my cell phone number. If they want to call me, call me. I'm used to that on a daily basis with my law practice, trying to stay in touch with folks. That number is 940-567-1025, because first and foremost, I want to be accessible. And I've given that number to everyone in the district that I come in contact with, because I want to hear from them and communicate with them.
Very good. David Spiller, a Republican candidate for HD-68 in that runoff race. Appreciate your time today, and we'll visit with you again as the runoff continues.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's David Spiller joining us here on the Chad Hasty Show.